Hello and welcome to a pouched fox on the edge. So what we have here clearly, as you can see from the logo in this very nice pouch, sewed, almost said embroidered, maybe the same thing. Fox little logo on there, very attractive. Why am I staying on the pouch? Because I think this is probably the most attractive part of this knife. Let me get it out. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and this is a knife that I don't think was designed for its looks. Obviously has a purpose and a reason for the design behind it, and let's get it open and show you why I'm saying that. Now that's a very, very odd looking blade, to say the least. Now it's my opinion. It is perhaps very attractive to some people. But what we do have here is the Fox Geco, and I think that's how you pronounce it because it's Geco in this instance. So I'm going to be calling it the Fox Geco in this review. And this is another Bastinelli design, so a collaboration between Fox and Bastinelli. And you can see maybe just the Fox Bastinelli across the top of the modified Fox logo there. And Bastinelli design, that is of course Bastien Cobes, the French designer. Right, so as per usual, I'm going to go through materials, and then I'm going to speak about dimensions, and then we'll speak a little bit about the design and attributes of this aggressive and strange looking knife. So what we have here is a blade steel of Bowler N690, and they call it a titanium stonewash on that. The handle is titanium on the lock side, and then we've got micarta on the show side. There are a few other options. I may as well just speak about that right now. So there is another, not a few options, there is another option where you get black G10 on the show side, and then a black stonewashed blade, and then bronzed titanium on the lock side. So there's another version of this knife. The clip is stainless steel. We've got a backspacer of G10, and then the screws are stainless steel Torx. And then we have a ball bearing pivot. And again, I'm going to make an assumption. It might be a steel ball bearing. Let's see if we can maybe, you know what? That's not a ball bearing. That looks to be, and I'm sorry they didn't actually state on their own website, but if you look in there, you can see a little bit of shine. That is a bronze. I think that's a phosphor bronze washer in there. Look at where the light catches it. I will see if I can find something else online. I was convinced, because it's quite a smooth action, I was convinced that that was ceramic ball bearings, but it definitely looks like phosphor bronze. I will have a look at that, and if phosphor bronze, I'm going to go with phosphor bronze now, and if that is incorrect, I will just add a little note at this point. Sorry about that. I was convinced about this until this moment. So right, after that bit of waffle, let's just carry on. So there we have a question mark around materials that I will confirm for you. Let's go into dimensions. At least I know my facts here, and then we'll speak about the design and the attributes. Right, so we have blade length of 8.5 centimeters, that's 3.35 inches. Blade thickness is 3 millimeters or 0.12 inches. Handle thickness is 13.9 millimeters or 0.55 inches. Then handle length is what do we have? 124 millimeters or 4.88 inches. And then let's check the weight of this knife. And we'll center that up as I always do. Lined up. And what are we on? We're on grams. Let's have a look, see. Not a light knife. 122 grams. Now that's interesting because I've actually written down their weights off their website, and they say 129 grams. It might be the G10. G10 tends to be a little bit heavier than micarta, so that could add a few grams, I suppose. but we've got 122 grams on my scale, and that is 4.3 ounces, and their specs in ounces was 4.55. But not a light knife, a solidly built knife, and not a knife that is clearly meant to be light or small or discreet. Right, so that's dimensions out of the way. Let's look a little bit at this design. Very interesting and odd, to say the least. And again, that's my opinion. That's all subjective. So the blade shape, modified tanto, very aggressive looking blade shape, but you can see, remove that part of the blade and then you can see the tanto more clearly. That's probably throws you off a little bit when you look at it, but take that away and there's your tanto blade. You got a little bit of a swedge at the back and it just a slight arc going backwards. This thing is just beginning to stray towards karambit type blade, but I'm saying just straying towards it. I know it isn't. It definitely is a modified tanto. Now, apparently reading up a little bit, trying to find out why this blade shape, apparently this uses Bram, I think, BRAM, Frank's kinetic opening tech, or it's based on that tech, or it uses a bit of it. And apparently what that's about is it allows you to open the blade using an opponent's energy in a fight. So just that should explain to you the purpose of this knife, and that's why it's so aggressive looking. So this is clearly a self-defense or fighting type knife. You can use it for other purposes, but that kind of explains that shape of the knife. So you can see very sort of stabby blade, quite a thin tanto blade, and you can see a very, very big, what's that called again? Flipper tab. One day I'm actually going to remember what that thing's called. Flipper tab. And you can see it is really one that kind of sticks out there like a sore thumb. I mean, that is bordering on the obnoxious. But from what I understand, that's what is used in that, using the, in inverted commas or in quotation marks, the opponent's energy in a fight. So from what I understand it, and how am I going to do this without doing myself a serious injury here, is, let me hold it that way rather. So it is, I'm assuming if you're holding the knife like that and that goes up against your opponent somehow, so you try picture it now still in that grip, that would happen, and hence that big flipper tab. So that's how I understand the theory to work, and I am speaking under correction. I'm the expert in this specific knife or this specific theory of kinetic opening tech. Right, so there you have it. So it does explain a little bit of the shape of the knife now. So there's method behind, I should say, the madness. Right, let's get that open again and have a look at it. Let's speak a little bit about Fox's Edge. We know that they've had issues. This is certainly not the worst that I've seen, but it's certainly not comparable to the best from other knife manufacturers. But it's relatively even and relatively neatly done. So I'm not gonna complain too much about that. I think this is acceptable. I mentioned the stonewash blade. We've got quite a big, straying off the camera again. One day I'll learn not to do that. We've got quite a big sharpening choil. In fact, quite a deep sharpening choil. You can see it sort of goes, into the blade quite far, but nevertheless gives you a lot of space to sharpen that edge. And then the plunge line coming from the little peak, if I can call it the little peak of that sharpening choil, you can see the plunge line going up from there, and a nice kind of ricasso. Big sort of thumb rest area, for lack of a better term, with the same jimping that we saw on the other Bastinelli design that I had on the channel, and that was the Fox Shadow, that sort of coin edge jimping on the back. So very grippy, but quite unusual. Normally jimping is quite a lot bigger. As another knife I'm going to use for size comparisons just now, but that's typically the sort of jimping that you would see on a knife, and this is that very fine, like I say, coin edge jimping on there. No other jimping on the knife at all, not even on the lock or anywhere else. So that's the only jimping you get. But that's fine. The shape of this knife, it's very, very secure in hand. So there's this arc curve to the knife that fits very comfortably in the hand, and you can see the shape on this side. We've got quite a big front finger choil, and then that flipper tab creates a really big finger protection on that side. So you can see fit for purpose if this is going to be a fighting knife. And then the same in reverse grip. And I'm assuming if ever there's a knife that's appropriate to show a reverse grip, it's this. So very comfortable and extremely secure in your hand. Your hand really melts into the knife. So from that perspective, you can see that the knife certainly meets its purpose. It is certainly well designed for its purpose. You can imagine with that little bit of upswept as well. So in a fight situation, forward slashes or back slashes is going to be pretty effective and pretty deadly with this knife. In terms of the rest of the finish and so on, so the show side, in this particular case, the canvas micarta side is a little bit rounded. And then we've got a little bit of chamfering on the micarta here, and then a more distinct beveling on the lock side on the titanium. You can see all the way around the edge. It's got the stainless steel insert, and again, like that shadow that we saw, the Fox Shadow, very, very big stainless steel insert inside there, but the usual stainless steel. So you've got stainless steel on stainless steel lockup, and you've got the over travel stop that you can see sticking out on the other side there. Pocket clip, stainless steel, bent, running right off the tip, so very, very discreet carry, and you can see it's angled so that in the pocket it should pull the knife into the side of your pocket and out of the way, and you're certainly going to need it on this knife because that's going to be taking up a little bit of real estate and hooking up on things in your pocket, I would imagine. But at least the shape of that pocket clip should pull that a little bit out of the way. But as I said, extremely deep carry, so the pocket clip actually comes out of the top or back of the handle, however you want to term that, and then loops around. Springy, easy to get onto clothing, and a fair bit of space in the back there to get it over thicker cloth. I think not the widest space I've seen, but not too bad. And I think that's about it. So it's not reversible, so it's right hand only. So those benefits I just spoke about are going to be in a right side pocket only. Right, is there anything else I need to speak about the design? A little lanyard hole drilled through the back, if that interests you at all. And then I spoke about the G10 backspacer. No attempts for any material removal on the inside, but then again, as I said, this is not a knife that's been designed for lightness or discreetness, I don't think. I think that just about covers everything sort of from a design perspective. And now we'll take a little pause and a deep breath, and we'll speak about Fox and their finish and their QC. So here's another one, and I had a Fox knife recently that sort of seemed to have redeemed Fox from a quality perspective and finish perspective, and on this particular one we take another step back. And there's just a little bit of roughness and lack of attention to detail in this. Now, it could be argued, so for instance, on this micarta handle, the finish is a little inconsistent. So in some areas it seems a bit smoother and shinier, and then it's rougher in some areas. One could argue that has been done on purpose because this knife is supposed to maybe look a little bit rugged. But you can see, for instance, around that lanyard hole, it is inconsistently and very roughly finished just on the hole. So on this edge of the hole, this side, it's sort of finished off a little bit better than on this side of the hole. So there's inconsistency even on just that hole. Then if you look at the finish on this G10 backspacer, so the finish on the G10 is all really nice and smooth and smooth and smooth and smooth. And in this area here, it just doesn't seem to be as well finished off when it gets around here. And then there's just no attempts to finish it off on the inside. So it's pretty rough on the inside there. Now, again, one can say, well, that's because it's the style of knife and, you know, it's meant to be a fighting knife and it's not a showpiece. Well, yeah and no. You know, in my opinion, even if it's a fighting knife, it doesn't mean that it has to be, you know, you have to compromise on the finish on the knife. Again, that's my opinion, it's my take. And then no arguments on this, however, is look at the blade centering. So here we've got another Fox knives, and it was off on, it may have been the Shadow. There was another knife that I reviewed in the interim as well, the silver sleek knife, and I can't remember the name of that knife, but please go and check out that review. But it was the same thing. So blade centering is off there, and again, you know, I say for a brand like Fox, coming out of Italy, beautiful designs, working with good designers, I just think that's inexcusable. It just shouldn't happen. That is just a QC issue. That's not a case of it, oh, well, it's, you know, designed not to be a showpiece. So blade centering is not about whether it's a showpiece or not. That's just a minimum expectation. And for a brand like this and for the cost of Fox knives, that should be better. So there it is. There's me again complaining about Fox knives, but it is annoying because I actually do like the brand. I do like their designs, and I own a couple of their knives that I really do like. But it's just annoying that, because you kind of think, well, I you know, not this particular knife because it doesn't appeal to me, but there are knives that I really like, but that's just off-putting, and it's unnecessary, really. And that other Fox knife that I designed, I wish I had designed, the other Fox knife that I reviewed, you know, you have a look at that, the last Fox review, and again, I can't now off the top of my head think of that name, and it might come to me in a second. In fact, I'll add that at the bottom here. But that knife was absolutely beautifully finished off. I mean, there is nothing. It is perfect, a great design and perfectly finished off. And now the same company, and you find these issues in it. It's just like, why the inconsistency? And you've shown that you can do it, so why not do it on all your knives? So, guys, I think that's my griping about the quality, and I think I've spoken about the design of the knife and what the clear purpose of this knife is. So let's pop that down here and then do a little bit of a size comparison. So we'll start, and I will use the knives that I have been using. Again, I'm going to say it, if anyone hasn't seen any of my other videos, it's simply because people probably know these knives because they've been out for so long, and they're probably available anywhere. So this is the Spyderco Manix 2. Very, very similarly sized knife. Yeah, the Manix 2 actually feels a little bit heavier in this instance. Right, let's get that out the way. Then I've got the Medford Slim Midi. Let's pop him down there. Now, Medford Slim Midi, I mean, Medford knives, there's an example of like a little bit of that industrial utilitarian type knife and type design. And yet the finish on it, where it's rough, you can see it's planned rough. In other words, it's consistent the way they do something. And it's not rough as in poorly finished. It's rough as in made to look a little bit industrial, whereas this is just pure inconsistency. Anyway, I think I've belabored the point. But there you go. There's the size comparison between those two knives. Gives you a sense of that. And the other knife that I did want to pop on here is a knife that's still on my desk and has popped up in a few reviews for size comparisons, but I think here very comparable in terms of size and probably weight. And this is, and for once I've actually made a note of what this is called. I always forget what it is called, and I have to add a note, so I've got it prepared this time. So this is the Boca Plus CFM A1, and that's a DJ Urbanovsky design knife. And again, I'm going to mention like this, the last time I pulled it out in a Fox review, here's a far cheaper knife not making use of as good materials. So 14C28N on this knife. We've got stainless steel on this side and it's G10 on the other side, but yet far better finished off. And I mentioned that in that particular instance, in that other Fox review where I had this, I mentioned that I know that Geco have also had their issues, but this specific knife is really finished off well and is very solidly built. But anyway, there it is. Use it, don't. Guys, I think that's about it. I'm not going to be putting price, I think, anymore, or speaking about price anymore on these reviews, simply because I don't know when people are going to see the reviews, and I have no idea what pricing might do. But this knife, and again, let me just at this point say thank you to Blades and Triggers. I really very much appreciate their support, without which I wouldn't be getting access to all of these knives. So I really do appreciate their support of the channel. But interesting knives like these and a whole bunch others available from Blades and Triggers. So please check out their website, BNT Online. So that's B, the letter N, T, online. Great range of knives. And you'll be able to pick up the price on there. And I've mentioned this before, and I think they frown every time I say this, but when you go in, if you make contact with them or go see them, chat about the price, because they're happy to make a deal with you if they know you're going to become a long-term customer, or to make you a long-term customer. And then this knife will be available in the usual suspects, I'm sure, the likes of Blade HQ, et al. In the States, and whoever your knife dealer is in your country. Guys, thanks so much. I'm going to pop this onto the show side so you can see it a little bit that way around. This shape might really appeal to you, and you might be looking for that sort of self-defense, aggressive, fighty type knife. But there it is. And once again, thanks so much for popping in. I really do appreciate it, and I would equally appreciate it if you would subscribe, hit that bell icon, because I would love you to join me more often. And other than that, you go well, and God bless.